Okay, we continue in Sefer Shmuel Aleph, Perak Aleph, Pasuk Ches. So we're left Chana in her very sad state, and every holiday they would come to Shiloh, and she would be upset. She wouldn't eat from the offerings that were there. And now we're on Pasuk Ches. Vayomer lo Elkanah Isha. So Elkanah, her husband, says to her, Chana, lama sivki. Chana, why are you crying? V'lama lo sochli, why are you not eating? V'lama yera levaveich, and why is your heart bad? Halo anochi tovlach me'asar banim. Am I not better to you than to 10 children? So the Malbim explains what was behind all these words over here. So the Malbim tells us one time Elkanah wanted to comfort Chana. So he said to her the following. He said, first of all, he saw 3 things she was doing. Number 1, he sees she was crying, so she says, why are you crying? He saw she wasn't eating. He said, why are you not eating? He saw she was very angry. He says, Lama yera levavech, why is your heart so bad? And he's saying, the reason why you're so upset is because of all this hope that you have, trying to have children, and then when that hope isn't realized, then you remember your pain, right? And anybody who knows people who have gone through the process of trying to have a child, and they go to all the medical institutions and try all these tests, and then maybe they are going to be pregnant, maybe not going to be pregnant, and if there is a pregnancy and then it's a failed pregnancy, it's a tremendous amount of sadness. And every time you remember how you davened and you didn't get answered, there's a lot of upsetness, and anger. So he says, listen, forget about getting angry about that. I'm better for you than 10 children. In other words, you're not commanded on the mitzvah of pruruvu. To be fruitful and multiply is not a commandment you have. And if you need protection, you need someone to care for you, I'm there. You have a husband's love. And a husband's love is better than 10 children. And well, I guess he's talking logically to her, because her main role was to be an Ezer Kenegdo. That is what the Torah says she should be, an Ezer Kenegdo. So be the Ezer Kenegdo. If you be the right Ezer Kenegdi for me, then I'll be the proper father for the other children that Penina has. And let's try to stay focused on what our mitzvahs are. And the truth is, you have my love, and that's in the real truth should be more important than children. And he's speaking very honestly and very truthfully, but doesn't really help. Unfortunately, people always, the way life is you always have to have what you don't. You always want what you don't have. Be people dying to be married to a good, loving husband. And people who may have had kids for another marriage, and the kids that grow up, they don't know their parents at all. I always tell people when in marriage, I say, make sure to be nice to your spouse, because at the end of the day, that's the only person you're ever going to have. And that's the real truth. That's the only truth. You have kids, wonderful kids, they go out of town, and they call you once in a month, and you don't, and you didn't have kids to own them. You did not have kids to own them. They're not yours. They're HaKadosh Baruch Hu's. Finished. And you're just a shliach to have them, and as wonderful as to have them, you'll lose them all. And don't expect to have them. That's the biggest heartbreak parents have. For all I did for them and this, that, Hashem said, you know what? I could have somebody else do it. Were you doing it l'shem shamayim or not? No, you were doing it for yourself. Then it's going to hurt when they leave. If you do it because you love HaKadosh Baruch Hu and you want to bring His children into the world, and you were the trustee for a certain amount of time, then you'll be happy for the amount of time you have it. think we have permanent ownership over our children, forget it. And most people don't understand this. Yeah. He says, "Oh, Rabbi, you're sounding so cold and calculating." That's the emes of what it is. Let's not think it any differently. I'm not saying you can't have a relationship with your kids, but they are their own people. You raise them, hopefully, and a lot of people just don't get it. They want to have the long umbilical cord that never is cut, and it's in subtle ways, or maybe not so subtle ways. That you start meddling in their affairs and all this. They have their own life. They can daven in their own shul, and you get together from time to time. But who is the one that you really have at the end? At least in this world, it's your spouse. It's your spouse, because that is your other half soul. You see, that's the one you really got to be with. That's the most important relationship you have in your life. Right? And without that one, you're really missing your Tselem Elokim. Not having children will not take away your Tselem Elokim. Not having a husband or a wife will take away your Tselem Elokim. But somehow people, they don't get that. They take that one for granted. And that's what Elkanah is saying to Hannah. Like, don't take for granted that the fact is you have my love much more than Penina has it. And she can have all the kids and everything. And as you see at the end of the story, how does the story end up anyway? The story ends up anyway, Penina loses all her kids, and Hannah never sees Shmuel anyway. So she really wanted Shmuel L'Shem Shemayim. She really wanted L'Shem Shemayim. Okay, it could be Elkanah didn't know how L'Shem Shemayim she wanted him. Maybe she didn't know how L'Shem Shemayim she wanted him. Maybe she didn't want him so L'Shem Shemayim in the beginning. Maybe only later did she want L'Shem Shemayim. But he's saying a very important idea, and that the real goal is that you should have a husband who is tov lach me'asara banim. And a wife has to look at that the husband is more important than the 10 banim, and the husband has to look at the wife, that the wife is more important than 10 banim. And that's the proper way to look at things. And that's why you have to put so much more effort in that than other things. So you want to have good kids? Be a good spouse. That's how you'll have good kids. It's not you work at having good kids. Work on being a good spouse. You'll see you'll have good. The same qualities that it takes to be a good spouse is the same qualities that it takes to be a good parent. Right? And the kids will see that. They'll be good children. So that's what he was saying, and he really wanted it to be words of comfort. But instead of being words of comfort, we'll see Hannah understands she has to begin to do something. Yes, sir.
So, based on what the rabbi just said, it's all well and good, but in the past, the rabbi has said things, if I remember correctly, I don't know, it's a quote from somewhere like, if you don't have children, it's like...
You don't have children, right? The Gemara quotes...
Contrast that to this.
The Gemara quotes 4 people who, if you don't have them, you're like a dead person. You're like a dead person, and one of the 4 is not having children. Right? Like having a dead person. So why did we say that? Right? Who are the 4 people? The blind person, the one with saras, the poor person, and the person without children. It's like you're a dead person. Correct. But not that you are a dead person. Not that you are a dead person. But the truth of the matter is, I would suggest if you don't have a spouse, you are a dead person. You are. Yeah, because you're missing the Tselem Elokim. You're missing the Tselem Elokim.
Fine, I agree, but that's
so it's worse. That's worse. In other words, look at what you have. What did he say? I'm tov lach me'asar banim. I'm better for you than 10 children. Doesn't mean to say it's not a nice thing to have 10 children. It's a very good thing to have children. Without children, you are like a dead person. You're like a dead person, but you still are alive. You still are alive. So we're not saying not having children it's a bad thing. This is a bad thing. But there is comforts one can have beyond that, and to realize you have a loving husband. Right? So you're right. We're not saying it's not considered like a dead person. It's kimes. It's like a dead person. And we said it's so much more difficult to be a giver. Here's the point. The idea of life, we explain this from Rabbi Michalowicz. He says the idea, what is life? What does being alive mean? So Rabbi Chaim explained, it means having the ability to give. So now, to be able to give, it is a lot easier to give if you can use your eyes. If you can't see, it's very hard to give. It is a much bigger disability than other disabilities. Right? If you're a Metzora, you're secluded somewhere, right? So you can't see anybody, right? If you don't have any money, it's going to be very hard to give. You notice people who don't have money, real financial problems, they get so absorbed in their own problems, they can't give. They can't give. It's very hard. I'm not saying they can't give, but they can't give. Two different ways of defining can't. Right? And without children is the easiest way to give. 2 o'clock in the morning to somebody who wants something. 4 o'clock in the morning, somebody wants something. There's not an hour that goes by, there's not somebody who doesn't want something from you, you have to give. So it's so much easier to be a giver if you have your sight, if you have money, you have children, and you're together with people. Right? So that you're not giving, but the problem is if you're not married, then you're imbalanced. You know, if you're married, you're someone who could give. You have the midos have been developed properly. You are in the tzelem elokim. Remember, if you don't give from the tzelem elokim, you're not a giver either. It's 2 parts. You have to cultivate the tzelem elokim that you have, and now that you have the tzelem elokim, for example, as we said in the mystery of Chuk, where one spouse is stronger in chesed and one is stronger in gvura. Until you're married, you're imbalanced. Now that you're married, you're balanced. So that means the doing you do, the giving you give will be balanced. You'll be giving as someone with the Tzelem Elokim, and therefore you are considered alive. If you give without the Tzelem Elokim, you aren't that much alive anyway. So you've got to start by having the Tzelem Elokim. That only happens through marriage. Now that you have the Tzelem Elokim, it's a shame you have no children to give so easily to, but at least you have the Tzelem Elokim. If you have a bad marriage and the husband and wife are not an Ezer Kenegdo, you see, that's when you have all kinds of problems raising your kids. Do you understand the logic here? So I keep saying, be good to your spouse, you'll have good children. If you don't have a good marriage, you don't have the Tzelem Elokim perfected, and therefore what you give to your children is imperfection. And then you just give them death, and you don't give them life. You know, you have a parent who gives on condition all the time. But yeah, let's have such a parent, right? So they have much more the attribute of gvura than the attribute of chesed. Right? They have control, and this is very often. The personality was the more controlled personality versus the one of the true kindness. Control means that when I give to control you. Oh, sure, we'll help you with the house. Sure, we'll help you with the house. And there's an underlying expectation that we will now dictate what kind of house you'll have. Because, of course, it'll be 2 blocks, within a 2-block radius of our house if you want a house. And, of course, we're going to come over every Friday night. And all the other things that go with that. Now, that's kindness. It is a kindness, but it's loaded with gvura. At the end of the day, this does not make you a godly person. What are you talking about? I gave $50,000 to my kids. It was for yourself. It wasn't the way God gives. So you were not alive when you gave. Do you understand? So with all the kids and all the giving and all that, all you were was controlling 10 children, and you weren't emulating Hashem at all. So you were never alive even with the 10 kids. So the assumption has to be, okay, so those 4 are like you're dead, but if you're not married, you are dead. Dead, what do I mean? Spiritually, you're imbalanced. So that's why it's much worse. So Elkanah is spot on. He says, I understand the suffering. I understand. I said it's much harder to be a giver. It's much harder to be a giver without kids. But at least you're alive. And if you want to, you could go give to the other kids. There's 10 other kids. I'm sure Penina was pretty busy. And there's ways, just like Rachel was considered the mother of all 12 tribes. So she could have been the mother of these. You know, so that's what he's saying. You have me, and that should be more than enough to compensate for that. So, but of course, that's not the way it works. It's not the way it works. I mean, ultimately, Chana was the ultimate giver because she gave her child away to Hashem. After she nursed him, she gave him away. She gave him to Hashem. So we'll see. But that's what he said. And because of this, you'll see something very interesting in Pasuk Tes. So Chana got up after she ate in Shiloh. It seems that after she ate something, I guess the words had some impact, that she would eat something. And after she drank, so she gets up. Eli HaKohen, and Eli the Kohen, Yoshev al HaKisei. He's sitting on his chair. I guess there was a special chair for the Kohen Gadol. Mezuzas Heichal Hashem, by the doorposts of the sanctuary of Hashem. So the Malbim continues the theme over, and this is a very, very important Malbim. The Malbim says that until now, if you look carefully, it never mentions Chana prayed to Hashem. There was a lot of responses on her part, right? You don't see she prays. You see that she couldn't have kids. Penina got her angry. She got angry. We saw that. She wouldn't eat. She felt terrible. She cried a lot. He never said, like, why are you davening? So the Malbim understands from this that until now she had relied on Elkanah's prayers because he was a tzaddik. Elkanah was a tzaddik, and when a tzaddik's praying for you, you got good stuff. And remember, it's not like they were, it's not a distant tzaddik. It's your husband, and certainly the husband wanted children through Chana. He wasn't satisfied only with the fact that Penina had all the children. He wanted Chana to have the children, and he probably davened very hard to Hashem, and she relied on his prayers. But now that she sees, effectively, when a husband turns and says, "Aren't I better than 10 children?" What is the underlying message he is saying to her?
Don't worry if you don't have to.
Well, why not to her? Because he gave up hope. He gave up hope. And when he gave up hope, she understood that if he gave up hope, then his prayers, as much as he's still praying, no doubt that he's praying, but if you don't really believe that Hashem can do this, then the prayers aren't worth a lot. When you give up, and the prayers aren't sincere. You have to, when you're davening, you must mamish believe that Hashem can do it. No matter what the odds are, no matter what the statistics are, it's still possible for that to happen. I mean, Sarah had a child when she was 90 years old, right? You would have figured they would have given up. If you give up, then the prayers don't really have the same efficacy.
But they did. Sarah and
they didn't give up. Hashem said, no, Hashem, not true. Sarah might have, but not Avram. Hashem said to Avram at an older age, you are going to have a child. And what does the pasuk say? Hashem says, it says, and Avram believed in what Hashem said, and it was considered a righteousness on his part. Why? Because Hashem told him to believe the unbelievable. The Torah says explicitly that Avram believed.
Sarah heard it from
right, she didn't, right, but Hashem taught, so it's his strong belief that made it happen. That's all you need is one. You need one who believes and prays. Yeah. So you had Avram believed and prayed, and Hashem says, I'm listening, and you know what? The time for your child will be when you're 100. In other words, it was like saying, Hashem said, yes, you will have a child in another 30 years, I promise you. It's too early now to have a good child. You will have a child in 30 years. Just trust me, you'll have it. Keep davening. It's going to come when I say it's going to come. Right? Here, you had Chana wanting the child, not giving up hope, but Elkanah praying who has given up hope. So we need to put it together. If Sarah didn't believe, okay, but Avram believed and he prayed, so you got the match.
How do we deduce that Elkanah gave up hope?
He said, that's the Malbim is saying. If he says to her, he should have said, "What are you talking about? Hashem will give you a child. It will come, maybe not today, but it'll come in a couple years, and it's going to come when it's supposed to come." That's what you're supposed to say. It will come. Hey, you should have sold over to Sarah, Avram, and Sarah, and this and that, and Hashem can do anything. Is it not possible for Hashem to do these things? Of course He can do this. We'll see in a minute. She didn't have the way of women. She wasn't having her periods, so she was totally not fertile. She could not have a child. So she said, what does it mean? Go through our Jewish history, look at our emails. It's going to be, it'll be, don't worry about it. For sure it's going to be. We just need more bitachon and it will come. Oh, then she knows he's praying hard. But sometimes it comes to a point, you say, listen, okay, we've married a long time. Let's resign ourselves to the realities. And so be very happy you have a loving husband. And that's an amazing thing too. If that's all you could tell your wife, that, I'm not telling all, it's a beautiful thing, but if that's all you could say to her, then you basically throw to the towel. And you say, it ain't going to be. So let's resign ourselves to the fact. She says, I resign myself to the fact. So what does she do? She goes and she gets up herself. She's going to daven herself. Now it says after they ate, because usually what would happen is they would daven when the animal offerings were brought in the morning and in the afternoon. And the Kohen was very busy doing the avoda over there, and especially on Shabbos and Yom Tov, where the Kohen himself had to do the avoda personally. So now, after the eating, it was like a quieter time, like mid-afternoon or early afternoon downtime. People are probably having, you're eating your meals, you're eating your korbanos. She probably wasn't having much to eat. She had a quick bite. She wasn't so hungry. So she now wants to go to the Mishkan and pray to Hashem. And at that point, Eli is sitting there because he's finished with his avoda. Now she went there because she wanted, as the Malman says, she could reflect, have hisbodedus. So again, you don't have to wait for Rabbi Nachman for hisbodedus. They all talk about it, right? For hisbodedus, and to pour her heart out before Hashem. And it would be a quiet time. There would be nobody there. She could really pour it out. Okay, Eli would happen to be there. Now it's interesting that the Radak points out over there. Somebody points it out. Where is it? Another page here. I have it marked off. Yes, it says he's Yoshev. Yoshev, missing a vav. Okay, so the rabbis say it's Yoshev, missing a vav. So therefore, it's almost as if you say the word Yoshav, written that way to teach us that day he was appointed the Kohen Gadol. That day he was appointed Kohen Gadol. So interesting. We'll have to see how this all fits in time-wise when we learn about Eli and how long he was the Shofet. It appears he was Shofet long before he was Kohen Gadol. But anyway, so he's new at the Kohen Gadol business. It's an important thing to remember, because as he will make a mistake in reading Chana's behavior, we'll now understand why he makes the mistake. It's his first day on the job. First day on the job, you're not used to certain things that are going on over there. So we will see. But so now we've got Chana ready to daven, Eli sitting in the corner there in his chair, maybe doing his own reflections. It's been a hard day. He's been watching everybody davening for all day long. Okay, Pasuk Yud. So now the Malvin is going to explain in this Pasuk what made and what we learned so much in the next 2-3 psukim. So much, all the fundamentals of prayer are learned from these psukim. And we're going to spend a fair amount of time during the course of this parak to appreciate lots of ideas about prayer that's going on over here. Yes?
One very quick comment. In Rav Soloveitchik's Haggadah, he talks about the fact that when the Bnei Yisrael cried out after 210 years, he said for 209 years, they never davened. They never cried out to Hashem. An amazing idea. He said the same thing. They depended on a lot of different things. This car was going to die, that car,
That's what we're going to get. The Mom was going to say that. The Mom was going to say that right now. He's going to say that right now. He's going to say that right now. Okay, Pasuk Yud. So the Pasuk says a number of things about her prayers. Pasuk Yud. V'hi moras nefesh. She has a bitter soul. V'tispalel al Hashem. And she prayed upon Hashem. Uvachot tivkeh. And she surely cried. And let's just go right on through Yud because he explains both together. Vatidor neder, and she made a vow. Vatomar, and she said, Hashem tzvakos. Hashem, and now it's a new name of Hashem being used, and Reb Tzadok talks about this, and Chazal talk about this. This is the first time that a human being referred to Hashem as Tzvakos. Right? It's a name of Hashem, so I'm not pronouncing it the way it's written. Even though, you see in Pasuk Gimel, it says that from holiday to holiday they would come to bow down and to give offerings to Hashem Tzvakos. That's the author's comment of how they felt about Hashem. But it's the first time you see a person addressing Hashem as Tzvakos, and we will talk a lot about that. And she says, Imra'o tereh, if you surely see, Ba'ani Amosecha, the impoverishment of your maidservant, Uschartani, and remember me, Velosi Shkachas Amosecha, and don't forget your maidservant. V'nesata la'moscha zer anashim, and give to your maidservant offseed that are men. Notice it says Amoscha or Amosecha 3 times in the pasuk. And if you do that, Unesativ l'Hashem kol yimei chayav, I will give him to Hashem all the days of my life. Umora lo yala al rosha, and mora simply means a razor will not come on his head. We'll explain all over here. There's lots and lots and lots to talk about over here. So let's start with the simple things that the Malbim brings out, and then we'll go on to the Chazal and everything else. But from here, this is what you learn. If someone doesn't have children, this is the prayer. And for that matter, if someone doesn't have anything that they need, this is the form of the prayer. These are the kind of things that make it happen. So Malbim says, number 1, there were 4 factors, 4 things that were going on that made her prayer such a beautiful prayer. Number 1, it says she was a moras nefesh. She had a bitter soul. In other words, she had a broken heart. So number 1, Hashem listens to those with a broken heart. Number 1. That means, what do we basically say? The person's not arrogant. It's a humble person. You know, if people don't have, part of that can humble them. So if they come before Hashem with a humble, contrite spirit, that's something that Hashem listens to, number 1. Number 2, it says, Vatispalal al Hashem. That's what you were saying. She prayed upon Hashem. Meaning to say she prayed with total kavana to Hashem alone. That was it. It was only Hashem. You're the one I put all my trust in, and nobody else, nothing else. That's another important factor. That's what you were saying. A lot of people say, well, I pray to Hashem, and there's a lot of other things that are going that will make sure it'll work out, because I have the best fertility doctor in the country. We have enough money to spend to do this 1,000,000 times, or whatever the situation is. The person doesn't have a job, he says, I have enough connections, someone will find me a connection, I have a lot of degrees. Whatever it is that you want, you figure, I daven to Hashem, but there's a lot of other factors that's going to make it. There's only one reason I believe this can happen. It's because of you. You have the power, and that's it. I'm talking to you and you alone. And she's crying. As we know, the gates of crying are never locked. The gates of tears are never locked. So there were tears. Right? And then she made a vow. You need all this. You got to have people with broken spirits who say it's only you, Hashem, and you cry. But again, it could be for your selfish needs. You're so careful how much of it is selfish needs and how much is altruistic needs. You gotta remember Hashem saying, why should I answer your prayers? So you say, because I want it. Hashem says, big deal. Big deal. What do you mean? I want it. I want to have a child. Why? So you have someone to boss around? Someone to take care of you in your old age? You just feel good about having a kid? Everybody else has a kid, you don't have one? So that's not a reason to give you a child. It's not a reason at all to give you a child. You've been selfish your whole life, so I should continue to have you be selfish? That's no reason to give you a child. And for anything else. We're just picking a child here because that's the case, but it could be anything else. Why don't I get married? Why should you get married? Well, I'm lonely. So what? So what's that a reason to get you married for? Why do I have to rearrange the cosmic order so you shouldn't be lonely? Well, I don't want to be lonely. Well, what will help if you won't be lonely? Oh, then I'll have someone to party with all my life. So what do you need a parent? What do you need a husband for? Boil it down. You're a selfish, narcissistic person. You try to get it all met by everyone else. Now you want me to be your feeder. If you're a narcissist, get out of here. I'm not interested in hearing you. You can cry, you can dish, you can everything all day long. You're just an overgrown baby. So now that's why I believe this is separated into 2 psukim. the first 3 items are in the first pasuk. That's all good and wonderful things, but you could be fooling yourself. How do we know it's really the next thing she asks for? It's Batidor Neder. She makes a vow. As the Gemara says, usually you don't make vows, but when you're in a time of tzara, you make a vow. And the vow she's saying, that's a very long-winded vow over here. If you'll provide all the following things, then I will give this child to you all the days of his life. I want this child for your sake, not for my sake. Oh, that's an altogether different prayer. Oh, that means you're concerned about what I want. Now we're talking to somebody. And we'll see, tomorrow we'll bring from the Nefesh HaChaim some beautiful words. But keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Nefesh HaChaim, beautiful word. I didn't finish the pasuk. So it says, if you'll do the following things for me, right? So she asks for 3 things as part of the vow. Part of the vow. So number 1, first of all, Hashem, you should see me in my pain, in my poverty, in my tzoros. That's what she says. Imra'o tireh ba'oni amosecha. You see the pain that I'm in. And then number 2, and remember my merits and my righteousness. Uschartani, and remember me. And and not just now, but v'lo tishkach, and not to forget me. Means that even after I will have a child, this child, but I should have other children. And that's what Chazal says. Uscharni b'scharim, remember me with males, v'al tishkach, and don't forget to give me females also. It's not just this one. I want some more children, right? And then so you'll give in asato lamosecha zaranoshim. You'll give me seed. You'll give me children. Anoshim, chashiv, important people. For what purpose, says the Malvin? To serve Hashem. Meaning to say, he shouldn't be disfigured. They wouldn't be able to be a servant. Remember, she's a Levi. She's a wife of a Levi. The child will be a Levi. So you got to give me a child, not a crippled child. You got to give me a child who could serve in your temple for you, right? Chazal says, "Zeranashim gavar beguvrim," a man of man. But on the other hand, the prayer also was he shouldn't be too big, shouldn't be too short. Really, should be an average child.
So now
average in terms of not being one that stands out in a crowd. But if you do this for me, then she says, I will give this child to you all the days of his life. Now, even though most Levim, it's very interesting the way she worded this, a Levi still has a life. Meaning to say, the Levi works in the temple, whatever, from 9 to 5, and then after 5, he still has his own life. He goes home, goes to his wife, goes to his kids, and he has his own life. So, part of it is totally dedicated to Hashem, and part of it is part of his own life. Right? So she's saying, no, v'nasati l'Hashem kol yemei chayov. I'll give him to Hashem all the days of his life. Meaning to say that he will be totally dedicated you beyond working hours. Right? And also, a Levi doesn't start working until he's 25 years old. So I could at least enjoy him for 25 years. No, he's going to start right away. He's going to start right away. And more than this, umora lo yal al rosha. A mora will not come upon his head. So there's 2 interpretations in the Gemara. One says a mora means a razor, meaning to say a razor will not be on his head, that he will be a nazir. In other words, I vow upon an extra kedusha, not just that he's a Levi, he will be a Levi who's a nazir. That means many of the physical pleasures of this world are not his, so he can be even a holier person. Others say the word mora, even though it's spelled with a hey, should be understood as an aleph, meaning fear. Meaning to say there'll be no fear on his head. He won't be afraid of anyone else. He will only have yiras Hashem all his life. That's all he will have. And in other words, saying his whole focus in his life will be directed strictly to you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and to nobody else. So that already is a prayer. That's the way you come before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The end result is that you're saying, the reason I want this is for you. I want to, and if that's the way it is, that means when Hashem gives you the kid, you send him to the schools that the rabbi tells you to send him to, and not the ones that you think are the ones to send him to. You're having kids. I'm going to decide. The most foolish parents in the world are the ones who think they know which kid to send their children to, as if they have degrees in education and they understand anything what it means to raise a child al pi Torah. Where did they get the certificate of expertise? I would like to know. What's their level of scholarship compared to their rabbi who's been studying for 50 years Torah, who has seen it all, been there, done that, and now you got this raw parent who so foolishly thinks they're so smart they know which kid to send their school to. They teach Hebrew in this school a lot. Oh, the building looks so new. Idiots. You're raising an neshama, one of God's children. Who made you an expert? The one thing you know for sure you're not is you're not an expert. Right? Oh, we're going to send them to this school because we heard the Lashon Hara against that school. Right? Most decisions are made on how much Lashon Hara you accept and how foolish you are to listen to advertising. And that's my friends send over. That's another very, very good reason. My friends who are half as religious as you, send them to that school. Or we're going to have to, it doesn't work out, the carpool doesn't work out. I may have to drive every day. That's another outstanding reason to send your child to a certain school over another. Right? So, whose kid is this? Whose kid is this? Is this the child you asked for? So this is the selfish, narcissistic extension of yourself? So Hashem says, I'm not interested. No. So that's why quite often Hashem will hold back giving people children, because He's planning on sending this family a very special child. Because if He would have given you the child like everybody else, you would have been as stupid as everybody else. And this neshama He wanted to give you is not going to be the same jerky one like all the other ones. And He doesn't want you to send them to that school. He doesn't want you to dress him up in the fanciest clothes so he'll learn to be a Baal Taiva. Right? So what does Hashem got to do to you? You're a nice person, but you're a jerk like the rest of them. You're going to make the same decisions based on everybody else? Hashem doesn't give you a child for a good long time. And then you start saying, why isn't Hashem doing it? Then you begin to realize maybe after 5, 10, 15, 20 years. After you go through the layer of, I want to have a child because I don't want to look like a weirdo, but I'm not like anybody else. That's not a reason to have a child. That's just for your own selfish reasons. Then you go to the next level. I want to have a child because I want to feel like I'm fulfilled. Another narishkeit. So all layers of narishkeit. Hashem's waiting. No, can I finally hear a real reason why you want to have a child? And then maybe after 5, 10, 15 years, you say, I'm beginning to realize the only purpose in life is to become close to you, Hashem. And having a child will be a way I'll get close to you because I will dedicate this child to you. Then Hashem says, that's what I've been waiting for. You could have saved yourself a lot of misery and come to that conclusion many years before. But the problem is you couldn't, because you had so much garbage in your mind from all your friends, you couldn't think otherwise until I put you through this ringer for so many years, till you came to the conclusion on your own that maybe you have a higher purpose in life than all your other Narisha friends. Right? Or again, it's not children. It could be for a spouse. It could be for anything that you want. Hashem ain't giving it to you because He knows if He gives it to you now, it ain't going to be good. Right? So that when she comes to boy and says, this kid's going to be yours. Now, how many women are willing to say that? How many women? What do you know? It's my kid. Oh, you foolish person. Flush another kid down the drain. You're going to put him in, going to have him have Facebook also? Going to have him watching television also? I should bring another kid in the world to go after preachers and znus? Take another kid and defile him? That's what you want me to bring you, a kid? To take a neshama into this world and turn him put him in a sewer? Hashem, give me a kid so I can put him in the sewer. He says, I love you, but I can't do this. Because I was planning on a very special neshama. I'm waiting for you to step up to the plate. That doesn't mean to say that if people don't ever have children, it means they never came to this realization. There's many very righteous people. Lubavitcher Rebbe had no children. Certainly he would have raised a child the way it should be. So Hashem had other plans. You know what? He was raising millions of others. And because he was raising so many others, it would interfere. It would interfere. So he knows what to do. So we're not chas v'shalom saying someone doesn't have children. It means they never came to the level of appreciating how to raise a child. Could be after all is said and done, he's raising millions. That's what we said. If you notice, the really great leaders were the ones who didn't have any children, because they understood that you don't have to have children, and therefore they treated everyone else more like a child. In fact, if you have your own children, it's very hard to treat everyone exactly like your child. If you don't have any children, then you have to treat everyone like your child, right? That's you had other Rosh Yeshiva and Chafetz Chaim also didn't have any children, and that's why his students loved him, because he treated them all mamish like his children, because he had no other children, right? But there's this number of people that they're not having things, and Hashem is planning on giving it to them, but wants to see what's it going to take, and that's what He's looking for. So how deep and sincere are the prayers is what Hashem is looking for. And if you're sincere, you can really have a lot of chutzpah in your prayers too. As we'll see in a minute, we're going to bring all the chazals where she speaks very strongly to Hashem. You don't have to come, mealy mouthed, and you could say strongly what you want, because if you want it for the right reason, there's no reason why you can't be very strong in saying that and demand a lot. You're able to do that too. Yeah.
So this vow she makes, is this incumbent on her son for his whole life? Like, it's one thing when he's a child, but she's basically making a vow. And we talked about this before, about not controlling your children. They grow up and they're not meant to be ours to control. But yet, if she's making a vow that he has to do, she's going to give him to Hashem all the days of his life, and a razor shall not come on his head. Where's his choice in anything when he gets older? As a child, I can understand.
She is doing everything in her power to ensure he will dedicate his life to Hashem. In other words, in the raising of a child, there is nurture versus nature, right? So she's saying, in terms of the nurture part, and that's what I'm responsible for, I'm 100% dedicating to Hashem. What is nature is Hashem, that's your business. I can't do more than the nurture part. If she deposits him to Eli when she's a little boy, and we have such a great impact on our children. And the truth is, percentage-wise, if you raise your child the way he should be raised, or she should be raised, more than likely they'll come out fine. More than likely they'll come out fine. But you have to really do this, You have to have a strong backbone to say, my kid's not going to watch television. My kid's not going to be on Facebook. My kid's going to go to a very religious school. We're going to behave a certain way. We're going to show respect to rabbis. We're going to show a love for Torah. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to dedicate our lives to Hashem. And if you raise a child in that environment, more likely than not, unless Hashem makes an unusual child, he's going to come out fine. And that she's saying, and I will dedicate him. If at the end of the day, when he's 25 and he wants to reject it, I did what I could do. And you'll see, even when he grows up, she always has that influence on him. She always has that influence on him. We can daven to Hashem and say, I will dedicate him. What he will decide at the end, his real choice, that's not up to me. I'm doing what's up to me. That's what she's saying. She can't guarantee it. She's not guaranteeing it. But I'm doing whatever's in my power. I will do everything in my power to guarantee he will be a child dedicated to Hashem. Yeah.
I think that when she started to pray and asking him for a child, that's where she ended. From that part when she started to describe what kind of neshama and what kind of a person he will be, it's already Hashem got into her and he is taking over.
No, well, I'd reverse that. She's getting into Hashem.
Yeah.
She's getting into Hashem. We'll see.
Hashem already, he is with her and he accepting the prayer, they're doing monologue together.
I don't know about that.
How could she ask a thing like that?
Why not?
Yes.
Why not?
She is not, only Hashem can know
No,
what
it's not true. It's not true.
described to make this.
It's not true. It's not true.
How?
What do you mean? She understands what she
To
wants.
get a child like this, like
Yes.
Shmuel,
Yes.
Hashem.
So we will see tomorrow. We'll see tomorrow. We'll bring from Reb Chaim Volozhin, and you will appreciate it more. All right, could be continued.